The 2023 University Cup has come to a conclusion, and once again, the University of New Brunswick Reds are the national champions. Joining me is SaltWire's Jason Simmonds. Jason, you were there covering the event. Just give me your overall thoughts on the weekend of university hockey.
Well, it was a great showcase for university hockey on Prince Edward Island, Scott. Over 22,000 fans, I believe, went through the turnstiles at the Eastlink Center in Charlottetown for the 8 games. Lots of big crowds, over 3,800 for the UPEI Alberta semifinal game on Saturday night, just under 3,700 for the UPEI Calgary game on Friday night, and great crowds, throughout the event. And they were treated to some great hockey, and of course capped off by the UNB Reds winning their 8th national championship in 16 years, which is almost unheard of at any level.
Yeah, it's been quite a run for the Reds and their head coach, Gardner McDougall. Maybe just a word about the Reds and Coach McDougall. As you said, 8 championships in 16 years. When you watch this team, what do you see as a hockey fan?
Well, you just see structure, you see hustle, you see compete, you see commitment. And those are all, ingredients that Gardner McDougall institutes. And the thing is with Gardner, there's not a harder working coach around at any level than him. He's all in, he's committed, his energy is contagious, and that just rubs off on the players. And I mean, I talked to different members of the organization last night, and at the end of the day, everything comes back to Gardner and the job that he does as sort of the leader of the team.
Yeah, just a remarkable run for that team and lots of great hockey. The UPEI Panthers, the 8th seed, what a job they did taking out the number 1 ranked team, the Calgary Dinos. What was kind of the mood in and around Charlottetown and Prince Edward Island when the underdog Panthers took out the top team in the country?
Well, that was just a fantastic effort by UPEI. Defeat Calgary 4-2 on Friday night before just under 3,700 fans. And when you look at that game, you say, okay, it's a 4-2 game, but it wasn't a game where people can say, okay, UPEI's goalie stood on his head. Jonah Capriati played a real solid game, come up with a lot of key saves, but it wasn't a game he had to steal himself. It wasn't a game where UPEI, they got a lot of lucky bounces or breaks their way. They earned every goal they got. They scored a lot of nice goals, and they simply out-hustled, and outworked Calgary, and were full deserving for the win.
There's a lot of things that can be talked about and have already been talked about what took place in the semifinal with Alberta and UPEI. It's been covered quite a bit, so we're not going to go there. But when you look at the tournament as a whole, and UPEI as the 8th seed and the host, getting that big win and knocking off the number 1 seed and then, finishing out the rest of the tournament, how would you sum up the overall event, how it was hosted and how the fans reacted, and just the overall vibe?
Yeah, I think everything went well, and I'm quite sure the organizers are pleased. You look at, as I said, I believe it was around 22,000 fans attended the games at Eastlink Center. There's a lot of buzz in the community. They had the Panther Lounge set up in the adjacent arena complex at Eastlink Center. That was busy throughout the weekend, and as soon as you walked into the doors of the building, you sort of felt that playoff style buzz. And there's a lot of talk, as I say, around the community. So overall, I think everyone involved has to be pleased.
And you're someone that's covered sports in this region for a really long time, and we talk about it quite often, but Atlantic University Sport Men's Hockey Conference is arguably one of the best, if not the best, over the long term in producing high-quality teams that always compete. From what you've seen from Atlantic University Sport, whether it's the Panthers or other teams, what can you maybe pinpoint as a couple of reasons as why Atlantic University Sport always puts out great teams, whether it's UNB, St. Mary's, Acadia, UPEI, whatever the case?
Well, it's funny you asked that, Scott. Just a day or two before the tournament started, I did a story on the caliber of play in the AUS and how it's sort of underrated here in Atlantic Canada, and how the league is perhaps arguably the best in U sports, and the talk to couple of coaches and some players, and the general consensus is that the teams in the AUS, they work extremely hard. They recruit quality players and quality people every year, and every coach and team is committed, and that just every year the level seems to go up, and basically you have no choice but to up your game unless you want to fall behind.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of the best series I've ever watched in hockey are series between Atlantic University sport teams when they're battling for the conference banner. Last thing I'll ask you, Jason, before we wrap up here is, from your perspective, having been there and covered this tournament as much as you did, what are one or two lasting memories for you?
I just think the atmosphere at Eastlink Center. Friday night, the UPEI Calgary game, the building sold out. It's St. Paddy's Day. It was a party like atmosphere for sure in the building. And then, of course, seeing Gardner McDougall and the UNB Reds win the national championship in Charlottetown on Prince Edward Island in his home province. And along with Gardner, it's important to note too, Scott, that there's a pretty strong connection, PEI connection with UNB. Their director of scouting, Dylan Taylor, lives in Mermaid, and he's a guy, Gardner will tell you, he puts it all together. He's the key piece for us. Assistant coach Charlie Cameron, now a retired police officer in Fredericton. He grew up in King Cora and is the brother of former NHL head coach Dave Cameron. And defenseman Chris McQuaid, played with the Reds this season, and he was able to win a national championship basically in his home rink, a rink he played major junior hockey with the Charlottetown Islanders, and grew up playing hockey in as a youngster.
Jason, the people you know, the stories you can tell. I know that if you ever ran for mayor of a town or a city in Charlottetown or in PEI, or even ran for premier, I think you'd do well, buddy.
I don't know if politics is in my foreseeable future, Scott.
Well, you'd have my vote for sure, Jason.
I appreciate that.
All right. Well, you enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for taking the time to join us here on the Atlantic Sports Wire.
Great. Thank you, Scott. My pleasure.
In Halifax, I'm Scott Squires for the Atlantic Sports Wire.